It's Deb Helfrich. This is an update on hashtag OccupyCMU. It's July 31st, which means officially been on campus for a month and a half. One substantive conversation about my work and one enthusiastic encouragement from the outgoing dean of CFA. I'm working up here at a degree of difficulty that takes time, and I do need some help. Reach out if you can. Now, the interesting thing is, I'm demonstrating mental fitness like a hashtag RedheadedSheHulk. True. I have got so much documentary footage. I have got so much journaling. I am truly in all ways, shapes, and forms being annoyed by somebody walking by talking to himself. You know, we all are to a certain extent. I'm here to spread my work because I'm certain. I mean, I really am certain. I'm sorry, my ears are cold. It's actually excruciatingly frigid. So just remind you that I do have 3 feet of probably now 89% red hair. Okay. Seriously, do you see what just happened? I love my subconscious, which I'm gonna shock you. I have a nickname for. I mean, that part probably doesn't shock you. Well, I don't know. Do you nickname your subconscious? Do you have Socratic dialogues with your own super intelligence, your own embodied cognition? Matthew McConaughey does. He does. He's always calling himself McConaughey. And, you know, the interesting thing is I always say his name wrong. And I realized, like, that was probably a strategy from his earliest days to refer to himself as McConaughey, because most people will call him McConaughey. It's really very brilliant. And it just stuck. It's just, you know, he just refers to his self. It's kind of brilliant. I might start referring to myself as Zenzi, because that's what I want y'all. I don't know. I don't know if I want Zenzi to be the character in the movie, or if I am embodying her in real life. I feel Zenzi feels like a much more central name to me than Deb. I never liked Deb. In fact, I was in approximately 1st grade when Debbie Boone had her one hit. And it was crap. But I had noticed she spelled her name D-E-B-B-Y. I was so unhappy with my name. I was like, well, at least I can not be as like everybody else and get rid of the I-E and use the Y. True. But, you know, I dropped the extra B and Y pretty quickly. Probably in middle school. I don't know specifically. Because I was like, we got to keep shortening this thing. I do not like it. Now, the interesting thing is, of course, at the time I only knew Deborah as the name from the judge in the Bible, which in those 2 words, you can't pick 2 worse words to name me. I'm so serious. Then, you know, only in internet time did I realize Deborah. Well, the only time I ever liked my name, and then I kind of was when I was studying at the l'Institut Catholique en Paris, and my Venezuelan friend, Francisco, and I said that, I don't know, I mean, Francisco Hernandez Castillo. It just, his name, the way he said it, it was so musical. This is in 1990, by the way. So I suppose it doesn't matter that I have permission to be. He actually played a crucial role in saving me from my first bout of homelessness. So it is not. Do you see how coherent I am? Francisco Hernandez Castillo was a classmate in my second semester at the l'Institut Catholique, my second summer in a row. I was en Paris on the CCM arrondissement en Rue d'Assas in 1989 and 1990. 1989 was the bicentennial, and we're having a lot of, having the sun arrive. So it's like, oh, and I'm not plugged into electricity because they've caution taped off my access to my standard places. They cleaned the pavement overnight. Apparently, it must continue drying, which I guess makes sense. I don't, but all the joggers, you can see the problem. It's dividing campus in half, or the cut in half. So Francisco Hernandez Castillo was my classmate, Venezuelan, as I had said, and one morning, it was a few mornings in, you know, we had started getting to know each other as a class of international students. So it was immersion en français. And, you know, basically the teacher just talked entirely en français, and we had people from everywhere. My first year, just full of everyone. I mean, we had about 5 Polish monks. Cesarius was the extroverted leader of the team. Probably he had the best English. Now that I think about it, but he was sort of the monk around campus at the l'Institut Catholique, which Carnegie Mellon enabled me to go to for credit, with getting financial aid to pay for the semester abroad. There was no money in the family coffers. And my parents, as usual, couldn't see it just the things that I needed to develop into who I was supposed to be, or things that they just couldn't understand, and they just did not support me. That's why I took the B in 52. So, you know, a few days in, because it was an intense immersion. It was like a month. Classes every day, and morning and afternoon sessions. It's a fabulous way to learn a language. L'Institut Catholique, I hope they're still doing it. I mean, again, as soon as I sort my money, maybe I'll be back. I've always wanted to go back when I had money. I was broke, and tell you about my first real bout of homelessness in a second, which I didn't think was what we were going to talk about, but we might as well, because I have always been homeless. If not literally a few times, metaphorically forever. That's what the whole morbid obesity was about. Now, again, my parents not being able to comprehend how to feed me played the real world role, but internally, when we understand via evolutionary nutrition what excess weight, getting up to 200 excess pounds, what is the evolutionary, what's the autonomic? You know, eating is mostly autonomic. That's why it's a hard thing to solve, and why I'm able to solve it. Because I know it's autonomic. I know what we're actually trying to solve, which is it is in an internal drive when a human is unsafe, when their environment, when they don't belong. And there's a variety of ways that this can unfold. Science for your ass, if you're doubting me. The Kaiser Permanente study on morbid obesity shows that a majority, I don't know what the statistics are, and it just happened to be a certain population, which would be a certain people who were at Kaiser Permanente. So I don't, but let's say a significant proportion of morbidly obese women were sexually abused as a kid. In my case, I can 100% assure you I was not. My situation is the exact opposite. Lack of touch. Shut out on the touch. That's my own unique situation of having all of this environmental sensitivities, very acute, like super Shiro power acute hypersensitivities. And I mean sensitivities in like my sense of smell going berserk over smoke. We did Thursday night at the Carnegie Museum. First time I had been there, 8 previous times or so. First time somebody just lights up in amongst the crowd, and it was directly in the path of the wind, and I got sick as fuck. I went all Lou Ferrigno, and I didn't intend to. I was composed to the minute I walked up the table, and the look on that smoker's face of righteousness, of like, off I went. And her friend, the guy, kept saying, well, you could just say. No, I can't just say. I am literally in a life or death state. This is literally, and this is the worst one that's ever happened. I'm fucking homeless. If I get sick. And I even said in my thing, the intensity of the smoke inhalation that I was exposed to in this public place, what about freedom of fresh air? And it's carbon monoxide. Again, if you haven't been keeping up with my work, and nobody has, cigarette smoke produces excess carbon monoxide in our near and atmosphere. We are all experiencing planetary global warming. We are all being triggered. And when there's excess carbon monoxide in your near and atmosphere, which is crucial, we know our body when we are thirsty or hungry. At a certain point, our body will stop us being able to be productive consumers in the US of hypocrisy. Well, you could go, I went 18 days without eating. This is actually Saturday. I'm on my 6th day, so I have 5 days of my fasting, which isn't the schedule that any of y'all schedule. First off, there shouldn't be a schedule, not really. And then second off, optimize it for weight loss. Well, you got to pay me. There is a hack that's really crucial. And then if you are morbidly obese, fasting is your friend. But it's feast and fasting. You have to feast to be efficient. So back at the L'Institut Catholique, let's tie up my Parisien story. A few days in, Francisco Hernandez Castillo walked into class and he said, Bonjour, Deborah. I'd never heard my name in the French pronunciation. Deborah doesn't. Deborah. But brought me a burst of like, that's so cool. That summer of 1990, I'd left America. I was going to live in Madrid. So my best friend the previous summer that I'd been there, Sonia Carrillo, had invited me to Madrid to her home afterwards. Her father was an acupuncturist. I started having acupuncture. I don't think in 89, but definitely in 90. And, I had early adopter of the complementary modalities. I saw the lifestyle my friend's father was able to create with acupuncture in Madrid in 1990. He was, in fact, the acupuncturist of somebody who I am now likely to meet, a long time model and just somebody who has gifted my life an immense amount of artistic humanness. Pedro Almodovar. He was a patient of because when I was staying with them, trying to get my feet in Madrid, they had given me some office tasks to do in the acupuncture clinic, and it had little old style card catalogs of patients, and I had organized them and done this and that, and did a lot of things actually. But that's how I discovered Pedro Almodovar. I had consulted my friend's father, and I, patient confidentiality, will not tell you for what. I mean, acupuncture solves very nearly everything, except morbid obesity, when you only have it for 4 months. The thing with morbid obesity is you must have a strategy that you employ consistently, medicinally, regularly, long enough for the body to evaporate weight. Now, I lost 150 pounds in the 15 months after turning 50. And the only reason I am not as lean as my body was designed to be is lack of money, is the time I've had to invest to take away from the strategy that I'm certain it'll work for everyone. Hibernation and feast and famine. Ancestral evolutionary logic-based strategies. And then you bring in full mind, body, soul embodiment. For me, it was tuning forks, cannabis, and ecstatic trance dancing. Of which, why I'm so pumped is, and why I'm fasting, is to get my body into immense shape. Boom, boom, boom. Next Friday night, we've got a 5 rhythms dance class. So I was in Madrid, I'd stay with my friend. I had actually had a job with this guy named Simon to do some English translations. He would do the translations, and then I'd be the full English moving, editing, moving it out to the world. That was arranged in '89. I called him, I remember, once or twice, how hard it used to be to dial internationally from a dorm phone when I lived in Henderson my last year. I'll get there summer of 1990. Guy couldn't be found. I didn't speak Spanish. I was studying Francais. Madrid was not yet the happening place I know it developed into. I mean, it was just not my rhythm, the way I could handle things in Paris. So my friends had managed to get me a job in Valladolid, in the middle of the country, and a brand new, just launching Spanish-English school. And they needed, obviously, and they needed a handful of teachers, and I showed up, and it's all just a fascinating story. The other girl teacher had come from Ireland, and her name was Gronya. And everyone always called me Gronya because I had the red hair. She did not look standardly Irish in the redhead sense. And school couldn't find enough students. So after 4 weeks, they said bye-bye. Went back to Madrid, left half my belongings in the bus station I had no money. They gave me a bus ticket from Valladolid back to Madrid. I had to leave half of my belongings because I just couldn't walk around. I didn't know what to do. I walked around Madrid for a few days with half my belongings, having abandoned an entire suitcase. I was there forever. I mean, it was, I was 21 and have all that much stuff, but I got rid of so much of it, and I had to take stock of what I had resource-wise, and I had the second half of my return, had flown from Paris to Madrid. So I flew back to Paris, really homeless, for about a week. Eventually, at some point, I convinced the nuns associated that housed me during the Institut Catholique time. And this was the second year. The first year I was in one on the Rue Montparnasse. This one was over by the Musée Antoine Bourdelle. And the first one was an actual school for children. So there wouldn't have been that opportunity. But the second one, I don't think was. I think it was a full-time nunnery. So they did let me come in and stay for a few nights, which then got my brain working better. And somewhere in the midst of all of this, I ran into Francisco Hernandez Castillo crossing the Pont Neuf. Right? I'd hang around on the Rue de Rivoli. I'd sleep in, there's a disco on the Rue de Rivoli that lets women in free at the time. And that was where I would spend the nights. Try to get some sleep in the disco. I ran into him and he invited me for a meal. And I remember it was really, really good. And it was just a sort of, a fillet of perhaps veal or the little tiny potatoes, right? But peeled, right? In the salad, and of course a baguette. It was just far more than anyone in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania has offered me in a month and a half. Well, yeah, a month and a half here on the campus area. I have been in Pittsburgh since mid-April. No one's bought me a cup of coffee. Now, Zanzi confounds the situation, but not entirely. Did have one person offer me a slice of pizza, which I had to refuse because gluten is poison. At least right now for me, the edema I've been suffering is horrible. All right, so we've wrapped that back up. How did I get? I had like $180 on my credit card. That had like $1,000 limits. I was like, and I spent all summer in Europe. Somehow, some way, I got a flight through Shannon, Ireland, and it was like a charter flight back to New York. And then I stayed with a friend who can't accommodate me 30 years later. She's been diagnosed with cancer. This world is entirely devolving. We are all in really horrific states, and we're all just like, no, I'm great, I'm fantastic, fulfilled by my work. No, the world is falling the fuck apart. Right after the pandemic, I'm telling you, there's about to be epidemics of invisible illnesses. The carbon monoxide, the decibels, the sound, our electromagnetic cells, our bioelectricity. Everyone is on a precipice. And it's so crucial. I mean, why I'm going through this, in no uncertain terms, it really can't work. I really am still the redhead in the coal mine. I am entirely certain that my senses are correct. And I mean, again, we don't know anything about what causes cancer except we are certain smoking does. Like the one foundational certainty. Yet people still are enslaved to those little white cylinders of plantation capitalism. They are literally the symbol of plantation capitalism. Cigarettes actually exist solely because black bodies were forced into slavery. The rage I feel against smokers is not just personal, life-threatening pain. It is also soul-level bafflement that we've let tobacco companies kill so many people. We can't let corporations, which are documents in Delaware, kill people. This is the most ludicrous civilization imaginable. And everything about this campus, in 30 years since I've been here, is about the god of business. It really, truly is. Factory farming these kids into business. Last Saturday night, young kid, buff young Asian male, tanned, walking around with his shirt off. He's an athlete of some sort. I couldn't say what. Maybe a surfer, to be quite honest. That's coming up to me. We didn't get into his background or anything. We didn't share any personal details. But he walked right up. He braved the barking of Zanzi, and he said, "What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?" It was a perfect question. It was such an awesome question. I was like, "Do not go into corporate America. Don't do it. There is no there there." And I had philosophized for a while, and then I asked him what his major was, and it is business. He laughed. Who knows whether he'll think about what I said or not. I think he will think about it. Will it change what he does? Nah. But might it, when he's being dehumanized, and we all are. I mean, we're not human at work. We're not, our full humanness is packed up and shut down and thrown away when we work. Even in education, these people just they have a new situation. A homeless alumni on campus is just invisible. They just cannot see it. They cannot see how to help me. And people, I'm asking these complex questions, and people are just like, no, because they can't look up their book if they can't Google. What's the procedure that's been vetted and established and approved by everyone when a homeless alumni shows up on campus? This is free will gathering. This is quite, again, I can't stop being, I'm just an analogy metaphor machine over here. And, this is the truth. Free will hunting. At the time, the smartest person on campus was the janitor. Now, the smartest person on campus is a 52-year-old homeless woman. Because no one's talking to me. And the betrayals of people thinking that this is a problem with me. Mental illness, or it is not. My brain is fierce. My mental fitness is Einstein of consciousness level. Yeah, she understand a conscious level. And also the other day there was one I had done and it was really cool and then I really forgot it, but it was she sphinxing. So when I do my Zen Nietzschean cones, I call that she sphinxing. In one word, what's the key to human energy, potential, and well-being? Bioelectricity. Now I'm working on to the Office of the Vice President of Research. I'm working on a pitch. And I think I got it. I think I started out, I just went with my own, how Deb explains things. And then I came back into, there's the 121 billion mental wellness thing. And now I've started pivoting into what to do for the school. Because there's actually a whole college on bioelectricity. Create a whole college. Definitely hashtag Wellbeing Philosophy Institute. And this solves a lot of, again, I don't want to be an administrator. I mean, I'm in charge. I got to be in charge until I catch up other people. And some will catch up quickly. I'm just synthesizing various disciplines. We have all this knowledge, but nobody's connecting the dots the way I can. That's my certainty. Is everyone? I've read the studies, and I've seen. Well, no, it's not this silo. It's just this silo. This silo. It's everything. Over in UC San Diego, which is a outgoing gone. If the gone head of the philosophy department had spent any time talking to me, because the neuroscience department at UC San Diego is brilliant. There is Professor Mutri who's creating brain organoids, and there's what are they alive? Do they have consciousness? They do. In the philosophical hypothesis of bioelectricity, very much so. It absolutely, his capacity to create brain organoids validates my theory. Then there was a guy last week who didn't respond to me, but nobody responds on LinkedIn. But actually, I want to go. So this was about the glymphatic system, and now the goddamn landscaping gonna get me. No, I'm like, there's caution tape cutting the place in half. I was like, certainly, I won't have to do this. Okay, here it is. This is lovely. Oh, I love sharing state of the art. The human brain is not a gray matter box. It is a neuroreceiver of environmental signals. It is time for the hypotheses of neuroscience to be inclusive and integral of the wise feminine philosophy that brings logic plus love intertwined. And so I thank Professor Alison Mutri for the interconnection. His work with brain organoids has added a great deal to my thinking about bioelectricity and the hard problem of consciousness, which I'm working to turn into an easy pivot. Once we think beyond the Cartesian split, which has harmed our conception of humanists and science we produced for the last 400 years. So this is the guy, Gabriel Silva. And the title of his article that he wrote, is he's a contributor to Forbes, the little known cells that are as important as neurons for cognition. Right? This is a wow. And he introduces his article by saying, astrocyte neuroglial cells are likely as important for cognition and information processing in the brain as neurons. Yet, despite knowing a lot about their molecular and biophysical details, we understand very little about how they participate with neurons in the brain. They are also likely critical targets for future machine learning and AI models and algorithms. Y'all cannot use electricity as efficiently as you can use bioelectricity. Now, the sun is coming over Margaret Morrison, so that will be, well, we'll see. Maybe I'll get used to it, but it's going to be shining right at me for a while. I could switch around. But we're over a pippin. I mean, this has been a great live stream. Many chunks of many things in here. When you are exceedingly smart in the US of hypocrisy in 2021, you will become homeless. Our society has smushed out all these notifications. We have no time to think about big pictures and greatest good, and we're just so linear and mechanistic in our thinking. It's just it's so sad. And I can't even get anyone academic to have a conversation with me. This is absurd. And I gotta process all these feelings about this. And what is it? Is my energy and my creativity? I mean, again, why have we created a civilization where the first thing people think about things is that they're mentally unstable when they're just saying new things? Well, some of that is we've created such a toxic environment. We do drive people crazy. There's no question about it. We driving people crazy. This is all. Yeah, this is probably doing interesting things to my face. I want to point out that out here in the natural light, I did not need my glasses to read what I would most assuredly have needed to pull down the glasses to read inside. I'm working on presbyopia, y'all. So again, I have 150 pounds. I have changed my body in so many ways, lengthening my toes. I should take that picture. There's no way I could do this, but I should take the picture. I wish I had a before and after. I have a couple of them. Would you guys stop yelling? Okay. It's just my environmental sensitivity, because it's just me, because I have to pay attention to everything. If I had, I've ended up homeless. If absolutely anything prior in my life had cost $20 more, I may have died of a preventable financial death. I've needed all this time. I've needed all the space to do all this research, to find all these great articles, to understand neuroglial cells. Like, that is a fascinating topic. And a lot of the assumptions that accommodate the article, again, they're all biochemical. But the whole foundation of things that he's discovered fits right in with just take a clean the lens and look at bioelectricity as the source of cognition. All right. Futzing with my hair. Futzing with my hair. Some of these things. I've a couple great insights about humanness this week. I mean, grooming, whether it's self-grooming, and I love to groom Zanzi. She's got excess fur. It's just clumps of fur. It's just so much fun to just, her excess fur is she's so soft, so magical. We know primates really enjoy grooming. It's a sense of belonging, and it is a sense of, first off, it's self-touch, which is, the body needs excess outside information, external information, not excess. And things like tapping. Your body's got 1 trillion circuits, and your energy is not optimized. I mean, it really isn't. Especially not towards your body. Your energy is all focused outwards. Your energy, you've not been taught to adequately or accurately, both. I'm not fixing that word. It's both adequately and accurately. We have not been taught to understand we're primarily receiving signals from the environment. Autonomically, everything that's going on, this is what I'm saying, that morbid obesity is an autonomic response to needing food because you are in an unsafe environment. There's a number of dimensions that can be. Having never been touched, I never felt safe. Case closed. Case fucking closed. Now, excess touching of inappropriate emotional abuse, very many other things can contribute to that. Can also just be purely mold in the environment. Living next to a construction site would really set an infant up to being it's probably what colic is, to be quite frank. Colic is probably an environmental circumstance that I could sort out. The environment is everything, So we are far more receivers, but we are also the pinnacle of evolution as transmitters. That's what the bioelectricity is all about. But the thing is if you're just receiving and you're making incorrect assumptions about all of your receiving, and if you haven't got all of the dials and everything tuned and you're not accurately understanding your receiving signals, your ability to broadcast, it's just compromised in every way, shape, or form. So this is the interesting thing about the lesson of going Redheaded She-Hulk on Thursday night, because it's Saturday morning. By Friday, I had processed that in a way I've never done before. Because see, I'm never, ever, ever going to not be sensitive to smoke. Now, there is in the woo-woo communities, in the holistic and complementary modalities community, I think a couple times, like a dancer friend and a number of people like, well, can you let go of that? Can you believe that you will become unsensitive in the future? Well, there's a reality that cigarette smoking produces carbon monoxide and all kinds of toxic particulate matter. Is not a problem with my body. It is actually that my body is one of the few willing to say no to this absolute weapon of mass destruction. That in this country, I mean, okay, I know smoking has existed for quite some time. Let's not get into in the US of hypocrisy, cigarettes are the symbol of plantation capitalism, and they must be demolished this decade. Am I coming after your freedoms? Or am I trying to improve everyone's freedom? You have to give up these white privileges, the white cylindrical privileges. The whole society, the metaphors are there consistently. This has been a great Socratic monologue. Zenzi, harmony.